We've been conducting a webinar series, like I mentioned, over the past several weeks, targeted at educating companies, tech companies, and other companies in Sri Lanka on different aspects of marketing. So throughout the series, we've been speaking about content strategy, about branding, how you can embark on lead generation programs. And it's been a privilege to be a part of this webinar series. I'm Kushlani De Silva, and I am a marketing strategist and consultant. I work with tech companies and help them accelerate their marketing efforts. So we're down to the last webinar of the series today. And I'm quite sure that you're looking forward to discussing a topic which is very important, because we're speaking about two key elements of any marketing strategy or plan, regardless of the type of industry that you're in. And that is on tools and teams. Two elements that, when they come together, they really can help amplify what you are currently doing within your marketing function. And we have two fantastic panelists today, both of whom I have had the privilege of working with previously for webinar sessions. First up, we have Chandika Jayasundara, who I'm sure is no stranger to everybody here. He is the CEO and co-founder of Creately, and I'm sure many of you might be using Creately as well. So Creately is a visual workspace and collaboration software that's adopted by over 5 million professionals, and it's been used by several global companies, some of which are NASA, Amazon, Disney, and several others. So Creately has done a fantastic job so far, and I'm sure Chandika has a lot to tell us on his experiences with tools. I mean, Creately is a tool also, and how he's seen their marketing team evolve over the course of time. And joining him is Krishan Dimel. So Krishan joined us on our first webinar of this series, where we had a panel discussion where we spoke about the broad aspects of marketing. And Krishan is the Chief Marketing and Corporate Affairs Officer at 99X. And right now he overlooks the marketing activities there, and he also supports the business development and customer success. And Krishan has a lot of experience when it comes to, again, teams and the evolution of teams, and particularly around the MarTech or the MarTech stack that companies would choose to adopt in going about their marketing strategies. So that's all for the introductions, and I would like to hand over to Krishan to get started, to tell us a little bit about the evolution and how marketing teams and marketing tools have taken precedence over the years at 99X. Krishan, over to you.
Thank you, Kushlani, and good evening, everyone. Let me just share my screen first, and we'll be on the way. Kushlani, are you able to see the screen? All good? Yeah.
All good, yes.
Right, so I'll take maybe about 10 minutes just to set the stage, and two questions that Kushlani wanted me to cover right at the start was in terms of how the team evolved and what sort of tools that we use within the team to organize ourselves and do the function. So that's what I'll be covering, but I'll just take a couple of minutes to kind of share about what we actually do. And in this case, so 99X, we are a services company, but very specialized in product engineering as the core aspect of our services. And most of our customers are in the Nordics. So pretty much 90% plus is in Norway, and that's kind of our target segment or target market at this point. If you take the team broadly, these are the areas that we work on. And if you take Norway, the press and PR aspects, customer stories, the lead generation, and the press and PR is more towards customer acquisition. And also from a Sri Lankan point of view, again, we do a lot of press and PR, but that's more towards our employer branding efforts. Outside of that, the corporate website is common, then the social media part of it. And also we actively support the recruitment team. And whenever there are any company events and webinars and so on, that again falls within the scope of the marketing team. So broadly, that's what we work on. And this is how the team has evolved over time. And why I wanted to put this together is to say that nothing kind of comes to a done state or a established state. You always build. So way back in 2015, when the initial kind of team was set up, so you had the CEO, the Chief Business Development Officer, and the CTO being kind of three people who provided direction. Then there was one person in the team, and there were volunteers from different parts of the organization who chipped in with respect to some of the technical support and the additional manpower needed. So that kind of was the initial or the inception of a marketing function in that sense. Then in 2016, it matured, again direction from the leadership team, with uh, another digital marketing executive added. Plus, be given the scope of work as it increased, there were two more interns that came in, and that kind of uh, was sufficient for a couple of more years. So in 2019, we have a similar structure. In 2020, that's when I joined. Then we also added another role as an art director or a designer. Again, a kind of a different skill set. We also continued with the two interns, so we kind of have a team of 6. And where we are right now is we've taken one more person on board full time, who is specializing on video content creation. And we have another intern as well. So it's kind of a team of 6 people. Now, when you look at this, you might think, okay, there is 6 people, there is growth. Depending on really what your focus is and the company's growth and all of that, you can be effective at any of these places. And it doesn't mean that you have to reach a certain stage, because what you might be quite successful just having 2 people and 2 interns as well. So what matters is really the scope of what you take on within the marketing function. So I'll just take a couple of minutes just to share that. And this is again at a very high level what each of these roles mainly handle. We have also built in some form of a shadow to all of the roles, so that in case one person is on leave or unavailable, there is always coverage for that. But we also have a sense where we have identified owners for very specific aspects of what we cover. So for example, if it's the digital asset management system, there is one person who kind of heads that, and there is a person who would help in the content management of it. So like that, we have identified distinct areas for people to handle. Moving on from that to tools, again, this is a snapshot of how things have evolved. It's not always that you plan, this is exactly what you use. Again, as the organization evolves, you evolve. And in some cases, you find obvious limitations, or there are imposed constraints. So if I just give you one example, we use this tool called Content Cal for social media management. One advantage of that is it has dual authorization approval. And that became a kind of a security or ISO requirement, at which point it was something which we felt we had to get into. If you take HubSpot, right now we are managing with the starter package, which is quite adequate, because in terms of 99x, we deal with large, we don't deal with a lot of prospects, but these are like high or large ticket items. So in that sense, even with the starter package, we are quite comfortable. Whereas the next package is about $800 more, which at this point we don't need to invest. Then when it comes to some of these other tools like the Adobe Creative Suite and stuff, which is what is used. Then across SEO, we have some tools that are there. Then we've just moved on to a tool called ClickUp, which we are using to organize ourselves as a team and track our activities. But as an organization, we are mainly on Teams. And we use Miro when it comes to collaborative workshops, and Zoom for our webinars, and Confluence is mainly for our wiki or the content. We also use tools like MailChimp, Meetup, and some of the things that are down there. Again, I'm sharing this simply to give you a very comprehensive picture of what sort of tools we use and where we have been and what we're actively using right now. So Kushlani, I'll just pause at that point, and maybe if there are any questions, we can always take it later on in the Q&A.
Yes, of course. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Krishan. I loved seeing how the teams and how your tool stack has evolved, and particularly the point you mentioned on, how it's not so much the number of people you have with the team or the number of tools. It's really how you leverage and optimize them depending on your situation and on the kind of goals that you've set for the marketing function. Thank you very much for that. Chandika, would love to hear from you as well on Creately's journey in this space.
Sure. So let me share my screen. So I'm using Creately to explain about Creately. A little meta. Yeah, so our story is a little different from 99X and many others because we are a direct to sort of customer sort of company. So we are a SaaS company. We are a visual workspace platform. So we were primarily focused on diagramming and collaboration, but we've moved into a adjacent space where collaboration is the primary purpose, and then it's a visual workspace where you can bring in from any kind of information, from diagrams to visuals to data, into the same platform. So and right now we have about 6 million people using the product, 200 countries, thousands of global brands that use Creately every day. And the major markets that Creately is seeing a lot of traction. US has been our largest market since inception because the US companies are more attuned towards adopting SaaS products and so on. But we localized heavily across about 17, 18 languages, and put in a lot of marketing effort, particularly to the LATAM area. So that's now our second largest segment, and also EU, Australia, India, and Russia are key markets for Creately. So it's a subscription-based company, and 95%, as in this used to be like 100% or 99% since till quite recent, of any conversion to a paid customer or account happen automatically. But now we have a fair bit more enterprise level deals that require a lot of touch happening now. So that's at a high level about Creately to set the sort of stage of where we are. To talk about marketing at Creately, as in I would put it as in Creately started off in 2009, 2008, and we've done a lot of changes, figured out a lot of things in the process. But I'd rather speak about time until about 2018, mid 2018 or so, and then after we rebooted the entire company and the brand, and started a significant growth efforts in 2019. So activities at that time primarily focused on as in, we got to, even at 2018, we were a fairly significant company in the segment. We are, in the top, top few companies in the in this segment globally. But at that point, we were only doing these few things, focused on mostly content marketing. So we were creating a lot of various kinds of content that were driven towards content marketing efforts. 5% and of promotional campaigns, and 5% of partner marketplace listings and so on. And then in 2019, 2021, we added more capabilities. And actually, I haven't put the percentages here, but basically 60% is now still we are quite content marketing heavy, but mostly promotion, social, branding, PR. We're doing resellers and enterprise lead gen. These are the key activities in the company. The channels that we focus on was from mostly organic search plus referral traffic, and then social listings and so on. And now we have more channels that we directly work with. As in, it's not to say these channels were ignored. We were doing them sporadically, but now we put direct effort and actual spending in each of these areas, from organic to paid search, partner networks to social, different marketplaces. We are doing more sales through API integrations and a fair bit of PR and branding, right? And as in, if you look at our focus as a company, we've our focus has always been trying to get customers to convert. So our PR and presence, say even in Sri Lanka, as in Sri Lanka, most people that we speak to or hire don't know Creately even has a presence in Sri Lanka. So we haven't done much in that area, but it's all as in what I'm bringing up that example is basically to say where as a marketing team, you don't have to be a large team, but it's where you put your focus on. It gives significant dividends, right? So when you look at our team size, so at this point we had about 9 people in the marketing team, from one person doing content, one person doing design, a couple of people on SEO, social, one web developer dedicated for the marketing team, one person support, and myself was providing marketing direction as well. Now we have about 28 people, and this team is actually rapidly growing as well. More people in content design. We have people doing video and multimedia. Still social is still quite low for us, because we don't find a lot of converted leads through social as yet. A few people on ads, a lot more investment in SEO, and we spend a fair bit of time in growth and A/B testing and so on. And we are very data heavy in terms of, because we are getting millions of users onto the platform, and we look at what they're doing and how they're working to really understand how to optimize the product and the experience, and a few more people in support and engagement. And so I just to give an idea of what kind of things we do, roughly, I copied this off one of our strategic plan maps. So we take people through these stages of brand awareness, acquisition, engagement, and conversion and retention. And when we break it down, we do activities as in content marketing is for us from blog posts to landing pages to translating things to how-to videos, guest posts, infographics, press releases, template packs, podcasts, lots of different kinds of activities. That's why we have as in, if your target, it all depends on your target audience of what you're trying to go after, because we are going after so many regions, so many customer segments across the world. So we need to do all these things to actually, compete effectively and acquire the kind of customers that we're going after. And we do, from on search, email drip campaigns, a bunch of things on ads, from PPC to retargeting to even Pinterest or LinkedIn, or we do a lot of Twitter and that sort of ads as well now, and a fair bit of work on conversion optimization and social. So in terms of tools, this is just a snapshot of the top tools that we use. For CRM, we use Freshworks and Zoho CRM. Zoho CRM is used for outreach sort of lead capture, but Freshworks is used for more large deals that we work with. In terms of conversion optimization, we use Google Optimize and Hotjar. For analytics, we use Google Analytics for most analytics stuff. But we use this is our core analytics stack. So we capture event data through Snowflow, which is like open source enterprise grade deployment that helps you capture all events, as in every event that customers go through in the app, everything that every action that they take on the site are anonymously tracked, so that we respect data privacy, but we track the behaviors, and we use indicative, which is like one kind of BI tool, which allows us to understand funnels, and holistics is more of a reporting tool that has more SQL kind of support, that we mine this data for deriving lots of reports and lots of insights that we use to do conversion optimization on using Google Optimize to run lots of A/B tests that help us continue optimizing, as in even if you get a 0.1% improvement in how many people load your plans page, that can end up in a humongous growth uptick for your bottom line. So we continue to test a lot of things. For SEO and understanding everything, we use Ahrefs. Social, we manage through Zoho Social. We've started to invest in our partner program and channel program. So we use a partner relationship management platform called PartnerStack. We used to use Referral Candy for affiliate programs, but we don't use that now. We use PartnerStack only. Lead generation and outreach. So outreach includes linked outreach and so on as well. So we use Mailshake, Lemlist, and Snowvio, a combination of that for either outbound sales work as well as outbound relationship building or lead building. And email drip campaigns and email automation happens through Sendinblue. Most of our transactional emails go through SendGrid, and the content and the site. So we are even in the marketing team, everyone uses GitHub to update the site. So we go through a normal pull request sort of process for we have a static site that's based on Hugo that enables everyone in the company to make a change on the site and get it into production in a very quick fashion, so that it's easy to manage and easy to run. So we figured out the marketing tech stack fairly decently, and we are quite happy with it. But we're still not organized as much as I would think, because particularly because we are growing in this team size. This is almost half the companies now marketing. We have more people in engineering, obviously, but we are our objective is to have 2x the size of our engineering team in marketing and sales, which is what it should be. So at least for the kind of company we are. So that's basically what I think I have to share there. Let me stop my sharing screen.
Great.
So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Sure. Thank you, Chandika. I really like the two things on that on the tech stack. I think the emphasis that you've put on data and analytics, as well as the tools that you have for partner relationship management, which I think is very useful, because partners, even though it might not be the case at the beginning, as a tech company evolves, I think partners play a significant role in how they amplify your brand and how they contribute to your lead generation strategy. So we are going to move on into the panel discussion now, and we're going to talk to Chandika and Krishan on a couple of topics. But if the audience has any questions at this point, either in terms of what was already covered, or if you have any questions or challenges that you're going through, please do send them in, and then we can take them as part of the panel discussion as well. So I'll start off with the first question, something that I hear quite often in my time working with technology companies, and I'm sure you heard this as well, is that when it comes to tech marketing, or when it comes to building a tech marketing team, there are a specific set of skills that you are expected to have. A common thing that I hear is, okay, we aren't looking for the traditional marketers who are in service marketing or who are in FMCG. We're looking for someone else, someone who understands the importance of content marketing, someone who spends a lot of time on social, but understands how to apply social for technology companies. So I'd like to start off with Krishan. In your experience in building the team at 99X, what do you see as those skill sets, both from soft skills as well as particular technical skills? What do you think you really need in terms of skill sets to build a productive tech marketing team?
Sure. As I shared earlier, it's something that kind of evolves as well. So maybe if I take a few examples, it'll be clearer. So from the inception itself, having your social media active, regular posts, monitoring and responding to those posts and the responses, then making sure that your website is up to date, making sure that again regular updates, success stories from clients, those go in. So that is kind of like keeping the lights on. You have to have those. When you take the next level, and that would be where, again, in our experience, and it would be different to a company like Creately. For us, it would be more like the video kind of video being a area that we want to have as a competence in-house. And where we saw the advantage of that was even recently for example, if it's for an awards event and you have to do some submissions, you have that competency in-house. You're able to do some very attractive video posts in a short while without having to depend on anyone external. Having said that, when it comes to say something as specialized like a brand launch, we did go out to an external agency, did that from somebody outside because you need something very specialized, but then that would be an extension to the team. Then the addition of someone who's specializing in design, like an art designer, right? That would be a new addition that we had. Again, you can you can manage without a person like that, but once you get someone like that onto the team, it opens a lot of scope as to what you can do next. And last year, thanks to that addition, we were able to do a kind of a very comprehensive book with our customer success stories, which if not for that, we would have kind of struggled to work through the logistics of getting it done with somebody outside. Going back to your first part of the question about skills, to get the mix of someone who really appreciates technology and writes well, I think is a challenge. The path we are taking right now is to work very closely with our technology department, almost like hand in hand with them, give them some kind of KPIs or targets to work with respect to content. The marketing team being something like an editorial board to work with them on what is produced to really polish it up and publish. But again, having that first level review support from them. Whatever that has to be like the social media posts and stuff, I think we can do that even with people who are relatively new to the industry, as long as there is a review process. But the moment it comes to longer pieces like a white paper or a blog article or something like that, I think you need a fair, you need the technology department to step in, but with the marketing team kind of prodding and making sure that the content does come through in the end.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Krishan, when you said appreciation for technology. I think as a tech marketer, you have to really live and breathe that space, and you have to be, it has to be a part of your life, I think, if you are to really apply yourself to the role of a tech marketer. Chandika would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, so most of the marketing that we did initially was very technical in terms of one, we had to write about the product, right? Writing about the product was, mostly, our responsibility, the people who build the product mostly, because it's very difficult to explain it to somebody to get exactly what you want to say. But after that, now we create, lots of pieces of content on a daily basis. And to get that going, we had to, the people we hired had to, sort of acclimatize to appreciating the technology and, doing a lot of research and a lot of background reading, which we, significantly invested in time in, for them to really get it, right? With lots of, initially it's a lot of revision cycles, but after a while you get there. But the funny factor is, even to date, about 70% of our marketing team has their first degree in either IT or software engineering, right? So we have more people who are converted, engineers who have converted into marketers than actual classic marketers. And that's actually, one, it's a good thing, and those people get it, right? Those people get how to talk about technology and so on. But the other part is the classical, marketing fundamentals, and that training is also essential to be able to do a proper job in marketing as well. So it's two parts. So that's why we have so many different roles in the company, that in different parts. As in, for example, areas like SEO, you actually need the technical chops to really understand that and do a good job of it. Content and communications and branding, that requires more marketing finesse and more marketing understanding. And those people, if they, we hire for technical aptitude, as well as having some kind of marketing sensibility, right? So it's been quite difficult for us to grow, but now it's actually there are lots of people who understand digital marketing in Sri Lanka, so it's been a bit easier to hire in these roles now. Talking about getting external help, historically we haven't been very successful with external agencies or external parties trying to help us with our marketing, because the domain knowledge that's required to do a good job in each area is difficult. Because as in, so for me to be helpful to the audience, I think our situation is quite unique, as in we have more people in our marketing team than most agencies have. So that's not practical for for most companies. So if you're getting one person to start on your marketing team, I think that should be somebody who's a general digital marketing executive, right? Not a designer or anything else. But the next person that you should add is is content writing and content creation. Ideally, the digital marketers themselves, or the people inside the company, like what 99x does smartly with the internal engineers. You should be creating content, and then the design sense, somebody who's doing good graphic design and video. Those are essential for sensible putting things out there that people get people notice. So those will be the three key roles to fill. But in the current day and age, for you to, so right now, if you're marketing to, so two things, right? As in, one, you might be marketing, if you're marketing to find customers, right? That's a different story. If you're marketing to build brand locally, for example, I'm amazed at how effective 99x has been in building their brand in Sri Lanka with such a small team, as in comparatively, right? I'm thinking, as in you guys have done an amazing job, right? As in comparatively, Creately does not exist in the Sri Lankan IT landscape, when you think about it. But we've we have, so many more people in marketing than you guys, but we are not known. Why? Because we, our focus is different, and your focus is different. As in, you spend a fair bit of effort in that area. So marketing is like the key thing in marketing is figuring out who your audience is and what message you want to take to them. And as long as you optimize for that, you can be effective, right? You can have just one person doing this thing. As if all you want is to land some customers in a certain country, in a certain segment, you could find a channel to get to them. The most obvious is LinkedIn, right? So you go along with LinkedIn, and I know plenty of companies that survive purely on LinkedIn lead gen, right? Lots of service companies do. So, but adding the general marketing and branding to that mix will make you look bigger than you are, and look more established and look like a polished offering to your entire company. So I think that's the reason that you should have some marketing in-house, and should build a team around it.
Yeah, sure. Completely agree on that point. And I think, again, sometimes if you're a relatively small company, I think you might want to give out the marketing function either to an agency or a third party and think, okay, it is no longer my problem, but marketing will always be your problem, I think, regardless of who comes on board, agency or otherwise. So I think that in-house marketing function is very important, simply to have a grasp of the whole picture for one thing, and just to have someone who's always, who has marketing as their priority, because the CEO or the founder might have product development or something else, but you need that team, or at least one person who's constantly championing for marketing within the organization. So I'm going to take a sort of a slight turn towards tools, and we're going to talk a little bit about the usage of tools. Now, even with tools, I think why we use them in the first place is to make either to make a process easier, to streamline it, to save time, so on and so forth. But sometimes, especially if you're using a lot of free tools, for example, and your marketing team isn't that large, you might find that balancing all of these tools or managing how you use them might be a challenge as well. So how do you prioritize the tools that you want to use, and how do you use them as ways to improve a current process or to improve how your marketing team is doing something? I think between the two of you and the kind of combinations of tools versus team, I'm sure you have some experiences to share on how that journey has happened. Krishan, what are your thoughts on that?
So if we start with, so if we can break it into different categories. So say if it's relating to the website, there would be things around performance, diagnosis, user behavior, and understanding that. So in each of those cases, for example, basic analytics to know your traffic and so on. So that's kind of like the base. From that point, like Horja and things which we have gone into more recently to really see after we moved to our new website with the rebranding, where we invested more time to understand and see in terms of performance and improving the overall usability in that sense. Where we see the need for tools is if we see a certain aspect not performing well, then in some cases the tools will be at initial stage a diagnostic. In some cases it will be where it improves productivity and how the team operates, right? So maybe one other example would be like how we moved on to using ClickUp for collaboration. So initially we were on Asana, and then we found that was getting a bit too cumbersome. Then we moved to, when the organization moved to Teams, we tried using Task Manage on Teams. We found that wasn't enough because you can't really get into subtasks and assign separate allocations. Then we investigated, say someone in the team took the lead to look at what tools are out there and make a recommendation. And then we tried it out, and then we moved to it. So that kind of has been the model that has worked for us. When it comes to say again selection, obviously the cost is a factor there, because you get the basic tool, in some cases it's free, but the moment you try to use some premium features, or if you find, do you really need it, and then is it a nice to have, or do you really need it, so then that helps you make that decision. In some cases, there are things, I mean, even recently, a couple of days ago, we had this discussion where, okay, do you want a tool where, say, it's a customer facing tool and ads pop up? And the answer to that is clearly no. So then, you know, you don't want to stay on the free version, you have to get to the paid version, right? So those are some things which we have used to arrive at what works. I think maybe one comment, if you look at the tool stack from what Chandika showed, we had relatively a lot fewer. The reason for that is simply because of the models and the types of the sheer numbers of customers or prospects that we're dealing with. So for us, within HubSpot to manage our deal pipeline, which might be about, you know, say 30 at a given time active, right? That works perfectly for us. Whereas for Chandika, 30 might, you know, it is probably 30,000 somewhere.
We can't, as in we are using Snowflow because we can't afford any of the commercial event tracking tools like Mixpanel and other things. They want
Right.
we have to pay them about $250,000 a year to support the volume that we would need. So
Yeah.
it's much cheaper for us to actually have someone dedicated to run our own event tracking infrastructure.
Exactly. So that's where that choice comes in. So I mean, just to give as indicator, the lifetime value of a client for us might be, say, $1 million. So even if you have to spend $1,000, now recently we have gone quite actively into account-based marketing on LinkedIn. And my message to the team is, it's okay, spend, because all it takes is, you know, if you get one deal and one lead, and that's you know, solid, that will easily offset what we spend on the marketing effort. So
Yeah.
back to you, Krishnani.
Great, thanks. Chandika, what about you? What have your experiences been like with the tool stack
Quite
you
similar
have?
to what Krishan was saying. You know, things like you know, what's foundational are things like event tracking and you know, analytics, and you know, having a good so as in your website is your face generally, and all your channels, right? As in all every point that you're presenting, from review sites to social sites to everywhere else, having an inventory of that and identifying those is so we take a channel first approach to understanding what we need to spend time on, and we figure out what channels are we focusing on, and then we invest in the tools. And you know, in general, you know, our team is you know, more tech savvy oriented sort of people, and we are, you know, tool junkies because some tools give you know, give you a leg up, right, on you know, because you know, new tools that are coming out, particularly in you know, for marketing. If you look at the number of tools and services out there, it's ridiculous, like thousands and thousands of marketing tools. Lots of them were doing the same thing, but with some variation. So us actually spending time, even if you don't buy the tool, trying to understand what this tool does better than the other one, or you know, just casually trying to understand what the value prop is, sometimes helps us come up with better marketing strategies ourselves. Trying to, you know, even if you're just using, you know, using a spreadsheet to do the same thing, right? So we actually at a leadership level, we look at these tools and we try to evaluate as many as possible, saying, you know, why aren't we using this? What can we get from, you know, doing this? Because sometimes they open up entire new channels, right? So so we and the other thing is, we want to use, you know, we are very early adopters of all new marketing technologies, because it's the same as adopting any new other technology, right? Some technologies will give you a head start. So in martech, it's there are lots of little opportunities, lots of new hacks that companies figure out, and they build products around it. And we generally try to be the first to adopt it, right? So being attuned to that helps us, figure out new pathways to find customers. So that's our general approach. As in, so that does mean a fair bit of volatility in our marketing technology stack. So what we do is we abstract things out from a technical level. For example, when we so right now our event tracking stack is fairly set out, but before we settled on Snowflow, we actually built a it's open source library to send a single event into multiple event consumers, right? So we were sending the same event into so we were evaluating these different platforms. We were initially on Mixpanel, and we ran out of space on them a fair bit years ago. So we were sending information to Mixpanel, Amplitude, Holis, Snowflow, and a couple of other platforms, and Google Analytics as well. And so we built a abstraction layer so that we can send all the information to these things, and then finally pulled out whatever that we didn't use and kept the one that we did use, right? So we try to take so even on actually, so for work tracking, we use Favro, which is like a Kanban multi-project sort of tool. But we don't keep the work data in Favro. We use GitHub issues for our issue storage, right? But the front-end interface that we use is Favro. Because if you don't like Favro, we can drop it and we can move on to something else, but we'll still have the work as the central data source. So we try to sort of take a very engineering approach to our all our tool selection as much as possible. Try to keep the data centralized, but the front-end activity on top of it. So if you can make investments like that, that's good. But my general advice would be to be very aggressive and adventurous in your tool selection, particularly where you're trying to go, and that will sometimes open up new paths for you and give you new ideas.
Great. Thank you, Shantika. And you're right, the sheer volume of tools that are out there, it just I mean, no matter how niche your need is or how specific it is, all you have to do is just Google it. There will be at least 5 tools that can get the job done for you. And I think the good thing about these tools is that they have different offerings as well. So you have a free trial if you just want to try it out and see without committing to it. You have subscriptions based on the size of your business, and even for consultants like me, I found particularly on the front of SEO, for example, you have different offerings that you can really use, and different tools that you can play around with. So I think going aggressive is a really great point in order to make the most of your MarTech stack. So I'd like to bring up a question from the audience. It is more along the lines of strategy, but I think it's a good question that both Chantika and Krishan can contribute to. So the question is, at the early stage of a SaaS, is it a good idea to go big on social media marketing, or is it better to move slow and steady with partnership channels? I think Chantika, you touched on this a little bit, I think, in your slide deck as well. Would you like to start off with your insights to that question?
Yeah, at the start, I wouldn't go with partners, because nobody wants to sell your product unless you sell it. And partners want to, as in partners are not interested in selling a new product unless they can make a ton of money. So it should be very easy for them to sell. So you have to figure out how to sell the product first before you can, as in even today, what our partners want is marketing collateral, and they want to basically us to give them a customer so that they can take a commission out of it. That's really what partners want, ideally, right? If they have to do some work, they'll do some, right? That's what you can expect from a partner, right? So you have to give them opportunities to, so you have to actually build an organization that makes partners successful. That's a core strategic aim for Creately. But that only So when we started the company, we tried to do this, right? We tried to go with big partners. We found some, very large brand names and that wanted to, work with us. But, we just wasted our time. And, for them, we are like a very small concern. But for us, they are like everything, right? So it's a disproportionate relationship. So I would recommend going with partners at the start of it. But in terms of going big with social, it depends on who your audience is, whether you can reach them, right? And what your product is. For a SaaS, if it's a consumer SaaS, yes, a social might work, right? But if it's a B2B SaaS, social might work in terms of more engagement-driven ones. For example, if you're trying to do this on LinkedIn, it's going to be quite expensive in terms of time and effort spent before you have a conversion, because now everybody's selling on LinkedIn, right? Everybody is probably getting tons of messages every day from random people trying to sell you stuff. So so I think one thing that I can recommend in terms of how to figure out what channel to go for is I think Sean Ellis had a book called Hacking Growth. I think that's a pretty good book. It gives a framework for figuring out so there are lots of different channels that you can get to customers with, and you as a company should figure out which channel works for which kind of customer for me to get there. And so one of the key mistakes people make is that they think the only way to get to customers is through advertising, or as in for Creately, advertising did not work for a very long time. So we couldn't run paid ads on our main markets because our customer acquisition cost was higher than customer lifetime value when we acquired those people through, right? And because we have a free version as well, right? So most customers come and just convert into free, and we are just advertising to get free customers, which is not helpful. So we could not afford to do that. But what happened was we had to retune the product, retune the flow, so that we can actually convert customers through that funnel, as well as we had to figure out how to run ads effectively as a company. So for that, what we actually did was we focused on, so the US market is filled with our competitors, right? Everybody's advertising for these keywords that we are going after. So we looked at cheaper markets. So the most sensible software buying cheap markets we found was around LATAM, right? Spanish speaking markets, and we optimized for that. And we had significant success in those markets with ads, and our acquisition cost was actually quite low. So we used that to really build our capability in terms of advertising, and figuring out what is working and what is not. And then we were able to actually effectively compete in the US market and everywhere else with our ad campaign. So there are more than one way to skin a cat. So you have to really get in there and figure it out. Where are my customers, and what are my resources, and how can I match that?
Great. Krishan, your thoughts as well?
I think I'll defer to all that Shantika has said. I think that's quite a comprehensive take on it.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. So we have a couple of minutes more, and I think we have time for just one question. So again, when it comes to building a marketing team and setting up a marketing function, that's an investment, obviously. So again, if you're an early stage startup, or if you've been in business for a couple of years and you're thinking of starting a marketing team, after a certain point of time, because naturally you will need to justify that investment that you make as well, because you're definitely working with a limited amount of funding at the beginning. So aside of the usual KPIs where you would attribute marketing team contribution towards your sales or towards lead generation, what other metrics, possibly more qualitative ones than quantitative ones, would you consider in evaluating the success of a marketing function and a marketing team? Krishan, what do you think?
Sure. So it also depends on the scope of your activities. And if I just take one of them to start, which is press and PR. So in terms of the local presence and visibility. So initially we started off with, we released some articles, released the press releases, and that happened. Then we moved into a more quantitative part where we know what was the visibility index that it generated month on month. So we were able to trace that through the whole of last year and see what it was. Now we have moved from there to also have a competitor view. So we know with respect to some of the other companies, what is our share in terms of coverage. And so again, it has evolved to another level. So that's a metric that we track and publish month on month, right? When it comes to lead generation, again, in our case, we again have we kind of publish a monthly report where we cover the number of new deals that have entered the pipeline, what was closed. So those sort of metrics are again shared. Again, on the website and social media, month-on-month trends are shared with the leadership team, and those become some of our reporting metrics. We also track some of those, and we share that within the team weekly. So there are kind of checkpoints as to how we are doing.
Okay, great. And Shantika, how are you all tracking the efforts of the marketing team's contribution to the overall company objectives?
So we don't do any kind of qualitative measure at this point, right? Because it's very difficult, given because it's going to be I think so. It's very hard to justify. But what we do is we track a lot of key metrics in terms of the total number of customers that we have, how many do we acquire. So we have a weekly meeting, all hands meeting, where we discuss all these numbers as a company. So we are very, open sort of company where we discuss end-to-end all the problems every week. So we look at the number of customers we acquired, number of customers that left, the amount of content or activities that we did in marketing, the amount of production releases that we did. So all this information from the kind of product usage, product number of people who logged into the product, number of people who created content, created new workspaces in the product, the engagement level of users, as well as the amount of traffic that came into the site. So there are about 20 metrics that we track across the funnel, and thinking about the customer's entire journey, and bringing them all into the same picture actually helps us a lot to identify very early on if there's some dip, some change, something that is unexpected that's happening. We are able to sort of address that very quickly. And when we do run campaigns, or even if we launch a feature, we track, we align towards figuring out whether this thing was successful, whether it work, did it, we try to, we haven't figured this out yet properly, but what we want to be doing is figure out ROI at a, at a task level, right? Even if it's a feature that we deployed, or even if new content that we created, or if it's a campaign that we ran, everything has a outcome, and we try to measure it at that level, and we roll it up for weekly reporting, so that we see what's happening. Yeah, so we're very data-driven sort of structure, and yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chandika. And I think one other thing that I would like to add as well, again, in terms of measuring the success or the contribution of a marketing team, even if it's just one or two people, is that they can have a significant impact on the mindset of the company also. Because if you function without a marketing team, or without someone who's prioritizing marketing all the time, you might not put as much emphasis on social or content creation. You might know it's important, but you might not have the time to dedicate into creating that content, or going on social and seeing what your competitors are doing. But if you have someone who's who's waking up and who's thinking of marketing day in day out, then they might be able to feed you with information and insight that actually helps you change your perspective about how some functions within the business should operate. So I think just having that dedicated function is also good in the long run, just in terms of sustaining doing what you're doing well at the moment, but also sustaining over a period of time, probably by adopting a mindset of being more open to what's happening out there in the market, being more research oriented, trying out different things, taking a leaf from what your competitors are doing. So I think that approach would also help when you have an in-house marketing function as well. Right, so that brings us to the end of today's session and the webinar series organized by the SLASSCOM GT I Forum. I'd like to thank Chandika and Krishan for spending this time with us and sharing some fantastic insights with us. I'm sure this has been very insightful for the audience, especially those of you who are out there and trying to figure out the dynamics of your marketing team as well as your tech stack. And a very big thank you to all of our presenters who've been a part of this series. That's everyone right there. As you can see, representation from some fantastic companies here in Sri Lanka with global presence, both product and service companies who've spent their time educating all of us on how they've built successful brands, companies, teams. And I'm sure everybody who was a part of this series will walk away with a lot of insight and definitely something that you can take back to your teams as well. So thank you once again, Chandika and Krishan, and thank you to the team at SLASSCOM, Mudit, Pubdini, Lakshmi, and everyone else who was a part of this series. Thank you for having me on board as well. I've definitely enjoyed being a part of this webinar series. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you again at the upcoming webinar series that we hope to organize. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.